What is up, guys, and welcome to Should You Play Batman Arkham Knight. Significantly later, might I add, than I had originally anticipated to be putting this video out there. But of course we all know the story. Yeah, the game was unfortunately not fit for release when it was released originally and got pulled, and has now had a couple of patches and is actually available now to purchase. So is the game fixed? Is it going to be something that you are going to want on your PC? And ultimately, is it a good game and should you play it? Well, this is New Game Plus. I've finished the game already. I had a very good time. It took me maybe 28 hours to get to about 97%. I haven't done all the Riddler stuff yet. So I thought I'd give New Game Plus a whirl, and it'll give me a chance to get this video out there and let you guys know whether you should be picking it up. If you don't know my background, I am a massive fan of the Batman series. So I definitely was very disappointed, it's fair to say, at the beginning of the game. At the beginning of the game, when it was first released, and of course it wasn't really fit for sale, really, which was a big shame. This is the mission selection screen, so this fills up with different missions you can do. I think there's about 12 all in all. And you can see, as I'm right at the beginning, I've got the main story right there. I've got some Riddler stuff, and then I've got this one with a mutilated body, and there are also a few firefighters that are missing. I'll try and keep the sort of story elements as sort of out of this review as possible. I'll talk about the story, but I kind of won't show it to you because obviously it is kind of a spoiler, really, isn't it? The first thing you might notice is that this game is very, very attractive. This is a very, very good game in terms of graphics, and that is probably one of the reasons that the PC performance suffered originally, because they were trying to get too much in. And if you don't know about the sort of lack of parity between consoles and PC, while they operate on a very similar platform, both consoles have a shared RAM and VRAM, whereas on PCs, of course, we have dedicated VRAM in our PCs, and not enough in a lot of modern games cases for graphics cards like the GTX 680, which only had 2 GB of VRAM yet was a top-end card. Games like this are going to be quite tricky for you to run, unfortunately. This is a challenge, and this will let me show you the combat of the game. And as you'd expect, it's very much just a refined version of Arkham City and Arkham Asylum. I was going to say Arkham Knight, but of course this is Arkham Knight. If you're wondering why I don't have any of the sort of counter markers or anything, it's because this is New Game Plus. Oh, this is a game of how long can you go without actually taking any damage at all, which is going to be quite tricky, I think, with New Game Plus. I'm going to retry that one. But the combat is definitely the best one out there. The stupid Batman Arkham, what was it? Arkham Origins. That once you got to the end of the game, they basically made it so you can have these gloves that will punch through anything, which was completely stupid because it took all the fun out of the game, because you're basically indestructible. I mean, this isn't a game about Superman, this is a game about Batman. So that kind of did annoy me a little bit, but there we go. You can see that, oh dear, you can interact with the environment when you're doing combat, and this is a thing that happens throughout the game. So if you are near a wall, you can punch people into the wall, and you also get various different environmental takedowns that are a little bit scripted. And by that, oh, what happened there? Oh, whatever. Well, I did well. There you go, 67, 3-star. That's how I roll. How about that? So that's the combat anyway. They've taken the combat from Arkham City and improved it. There's a few sort of new gadgets and features and things like that. I didn't mean to do that. Board challenge. A few different features from Arkham City that they've taken a bit further. And of course, while there were some features in Arkham City, they don't necessarily all appear in Arkham Knight, and they kind of make sense from a story point of view. And being the ultimate detective, you get given a whole host of different gadgets throughout the game. You have some really nice graphical effects, like the NVIDIA Advanced Grain you can turn on, and then you've got this reflections on the cape here. This is all running off a GTX 980, but please bear in mind that this actually isn't running any of the NVIDIA specific things. So everything you see here, providing you have the horsepower, you should be able to run it regardless on your platform. So we probably should take a look at the options menu. You've got photo mode, which will make you take a photo for sharing. Game options, you've got difficulty, and then a few different game options. Mouse smoothing is something you might want to turn on or off depending on whether you're using a mouse and keyboard. A few different speaker settings, so this is all about dynamic range. But then the one, of course, you're interested in is graphics options. Now, we've got significantly more now than we did. This is, of course, since the game has been patched. But the thing that I look at straight away when I sort of look at this now is, for the purpose of this review, I have downgraded the resolution from the ultra-wide 3440 by 1440 to 1080p. And if you look at the VRAM usage, I was on about 3900. So by literally reducing the amount of pixels on screen by a significant amount hasn't made too much difference to the VRAM. And you see the texture resolution is on high, and that will significantly turn down the amount of VRAM. But let's pretend you are on a 1080p monitor with a GTX 680. The settings you would need to use for this would probably be maybe normal textures, maybe even low textures in all honesty, normal shadows. Let's see if we can get level of detail down. No, that doesn't make any difference. Motion blur, they won't make any difference. So if you are running this on 2 GB of VRAM, basically you're going to have the texture resolution on low, which is really annoying. You had to have it basically like that. And that's the way you would have to play. Which is pretty frustrating because it's a bloody high-end card, the GTX 680. But when you think that this game is very, very big, it's an open world game, and you have different assets rendering from quite a long distance, it kind of does make sense, but that doesn't mean that it's not annoying for anyone with a sort of older card. And a GTX 680 is only, what, 3 years old and cost £400 when you first bought it, so yeah, that would be quite annoying. So, and of course the 770 as well only has 2 GB of VRAM, so it could well be problematic in terms of VRAM. But in terms of texture leaking, I haven't seen any in the game since I have done the patch, at least. And in terms of stutter, running this off a solid state drive, I have had 2 stutters that the game basically crashed and then sort of recovered a few seconds later. Both of these as well were while driving. And of course, this is the Batmobile. I said while driving. So we are basically in a tank driving through the streets of Gotham, which is pretty cool, and is something that I think Rocksteady really wanted to do right and do well. And they've done a good job. I know it's a bit controversial, but I think the addition of the Batmobile is great. I think it's very cool, and I think the actual mechanics are pretty good. Now, a lot of people have disagreed from the reviews I sort of read online, but I really like it. But there is a substantial problem with the Batmobile in this game, and it's not a balance thing because they get tanks and things like that, which is kind of almost a little bit silly. I guess that is almost another problem people have. I think the whole game has gone from slightly realistic to not at all realistic. But all the story elements really of the game, as I suppose I can show you now, as this is a story mission, is that all of them really revolve around the Batmobile, and every little thing from Riddler trophies to a story mission like this will use the Batmobile in some way. But I'll let this cutscene roll.
Left in there, but they're not responding and the facility's locked down.
If they're still alive, I'll find them. They should be able to tell us what Scarecrow's up to.
What the hell?
And I'll skip that because it could well take too long. So we've got to stop
First, I need to investigate
Scarecrow from detonating the bomb. And we've got to go inside Ace Chemicals to get some information on what's going on. I won't talk spoilers as much as I can, but on a story point of view, I will say that the game lasted maybe about 22 hours before I'd finished the final mission, which is a very, very nice amount of time for a single player
Whoever this guy
mission.
is, he's a symbol.
Yeah, it definitely has to be said. And generally the story was very, very good, but I can't help but feel it wasn't quite as good as the story in Asylum and City. City had some really, really cool side missions, and while this game does have a few, it's not really the same caliber personally. I think some of the stuff is a bit fillery. I mean, a couple of them are basically just like go and stop some checkpoints, so use some stealth mechanics, and it's just a bit kind of not that different from the main game. This, I have to say, is quite cool though. You get these sequences with Batman looking at this really good holographic generator in front of him. Anyway, so we're now in a story mission, and at the moment we're on our feet, which is somewhat of a rarity unless we're indoors. But this is because we're trying to get the Batmobile in, and that is a common theme throughout all the story missions. It's like, oh, get out the Batmobile, go and do something so you can bring in the Batmobile. And if you don't like the Batmobile, that is going to cause you a big problem, because you're kind of stuck with it. And bear in mind, the game lasts 22 hours. You'll spend maybe 25% of your time in the Batmobile, which is what, about 5.5 hours. So there's quite a long amount of time to spend with the Batmobile if you don't get on with it. But yeah, I mean, personally, I don't have a problem with it, but I know some people have. And when you think Arkham Asylum was this very sort of small, tight, cramped game, it's very different. It feels very different, it has to be said. Right, let's... Oh, there we go. Fear multi-takedown. So that feature, I have to say, is quite cool. You can take out a load of people at the same time. Again, some might argue it makes the game a bit easier, but if you turn the difficulty up, I haven't found this to be an issue.
Data decrypting. Someone needs to upgrade their security protocols.
So anyway, while we're progressing with this story mission, I've talked a little bit about the Batmobile and its additions. Talked about the graphics, but I haven't really talked about the performance. And I can comfortably run this game at 3440 by 1440 on a GTX 980 at about an average of about 50 frames a second. If you're running this at 1080p, you're not actually going to get that much back in the way of performance. I mean, I'm running this at a cap 60 at the moment, and we haven't had any drops. But basically, turning up the resolution is normally like the biggest factor in turning up the resolution is the biggest factor in sort of lowering your performance. Like the more you turn up the resolution, obviously the lower your sort of frames a second is going to be. But just generally speaking, this game is very hard to run no matter what resolution you're running it at. And I know that some people, even on a decent card, are still having problems at 1080p. But I wouldn't say it's a reason anymore not to buy the game, because you can get a refund on Steam if it doesn't play very well with your system, which is fair enough. And I haven't had any crashes throughout the game anyway. And when I played through it the first time without the patch, I didn't really have too many issues either. But I know it's still a very difficult game to run. I know it's probably still got issues, but from my point of view, I haven't experienced any problems, and it is much better now to run. But I think one thing is very clear: if you have a FreeSync or G-Sync monitor, this game is definitely going to be a game that's going to utilize the benefits of that. And at the moment, although I'm using a FreeSync monitor, like right now, I am not using a AMD card, so I'm not getting the benefits of it, and I still don't really have too much of an issue. I'm having a good time with it. Right, okay, let me out, please. Let me out. I want to get out. Can I get out? Do I need to do something? I need to get out. How do I get out? Let me out. I'm assuming there's some sort of computer or something. Or do I need to go up the top? What am I doing? Oh, I know what I'm doing. I'm calling in the Batmobile, that's why. It's because I wasn't listening. So the Batmobile is actually available on a remote as well. So you can do stuff like this from quite a range, which is quite cool. But yeah, this is very much a common theme. I don't know how we got there so quickly. And then we have Batmobile combat as well, so we can blow up these tanks. I've upgraded the Batmobile quite a lot, so this is probably quite a bit easier than it should be. But yeah, no, this is the Batmobile combat, and it does a tiny bit sort of detract from the fact that Batmobile isn't meant to kill people. While they insist he doesn't, I kind of find that hard to believe when you can shoot pedestrians with concussive rounds. But it's like they get hit by a massive shell. How is that not going to kill them? But there we go. Anyway, this has been Should You Play Batman Arkham Knight. The story itself is very good. It's not as good as the others, but it's still pretty damn good in my honest opinion. The gameplay itself is pretty much everything you expect. It's very Batman-y. It's better than any of the other games in terms of gameplay. It feels very balanced, and it's got a lot to offer in terms of longevity as well, because there's plenty of challenges you can do. There's New Game Plus like I'm doing now, and there's also DLC available if you want that, and that's something a lot of people aren't really complaining for at the moment, is lack of DLC. Ooh, ninjas. In terms of performance, hopefully everyone that has a decent modern system will be able to play it, but it's definitely fair to say that if you have something like a GTX 750, you're probably going to struggle. But at least you have the benefit of being able to get a Steam refund if you buy it on Steam and you are having problems. They are, at the moment, offering free refunds until Christmas, no matter how long you've played it, but I have a feeling that's probably only for old purchases, and if you purchase it now, you probably won't get that same offer. But I'm not entirely sure, so I'm afraid you can't hold me to that. Oh god, these things are quite difficult to kill, actually, in New Game Plus, as we said, but that is why you play New Game Plus. It's quite difficult to read. Alright, careful, careful. There we go. In terms of upgrades as well, there's more than ever, and you can sort of branch out. Oh dear, I actually died. That's not like me at all.
It's over, hero. Goodbye.
Who's that, I wonder? You'll find out if you play the game. But yeah, thank you so much for checking out this video anyway. I was in the middle of wrapping up, and basically the gameplay is good, the story is good, and while it's not personally my favourite Batman game, it's definitely the most advanced Batman game, and if you do have the ability to run it, I think you're actually really going to enjoy it, because it's got very much a spot of bad press because of everything that's happened, but underneath all of that is actually a very, very competent game, and one that I have very much enjoyed playing, despite the issues that I've had pre-patch, and not really after patch, post-patch. If you've liked this video, don't forget to like this video. It does help because it makes other people know this is a video worth watching. And if you didn't like this video, then please dislike, but do let me know why with a comment so I can improve for next time. I have to say that actually this Batman game hasn't been very easy to review, not just because of everything that has sort of happened, but because the pacing of the game is very much gameplay story. It's quite difficult to sort of find the right moment to share with you guys. But actually this moment has been alright, but I definitely did spend maybe half an hour before recording this trying out different recordings in different places, and they didn't necessarily work. For more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe, and for more videos like the Fallout 4 review that are coming very soon, of course, don't forget to subscribe and stay posted. Stay tuned to see everything that happens. So, thank you so much once again for checking out this video, and I will, of course, hopefully, see you in the next one.